It's the Sin Sports Side Podcast, exclusively on 1045theteam.com.
Welcome into the Sin Sports Side Podcast. I am Mike James, and I am joined in studio by the voice of the Siena Saints and the Albany Empire.
To all the ladies in the place with style and grace, allow me to lace this lyrical douches in the bushes.
I'm doing well, Mike. Right?
Yeah,
Feel like Key and Peele in here all of a sudden.
It's funny because literally, I have the talk to text on my phone, the Apple CarPlay or whatever, and you're in my phone as AJ Kanell, and I say text AJ, it's like, what would you like to say to Aj Kanell? I'm like, really? Aj? Come on. So let's talk about the Saints. When's their next home game? This week coming up, right?
I haven't even looked that far ahead because we got a big road trip coming up. Ryder on Sunday is the game that kind of everybody is circled, and then play Manhattan first on Friday as of the time that this is being recorded. I've just been so locked in on right now it's a stretch where 4 out of these 5 games are on the road, and we just play the lone home game in the stretch. So I've been mostly focused on the road. I know we come back next week at some point. I'm going to look it up for you right now, but it shows how much I know. You asked me about our schedule, and I'm like, I know we got Manhattan and Ryder coming up, and I'm pulling it up right now. It's Iona. It's a weird schedule this year because we just played Iona, and then 11 days later we have them back at home. That's not until a week from tomorrow, as of when this is being recorded. So it's next Wednesday. I don't really feel that bad about not knowing that then, because that's a while from now. But yeah, Iona on Wednesday. And that's a huge game also, Mike, because it was a big road win for Siena at Iona on February 2nd. Hugely entertaining end of the game where there were 4 missed shots in a row by Iona until that buzzer. And then, to have kind of your arch rival back at home after that huge road win, have him back at home 11 days later. The crowds have been really good this year. I think it's probably going to be one of the best crowds of the season for that Iona game.
Well, I'll give you a little break on that because you're still celebrating your 6th Super Bowl win from Sunday, right? You Patriots fan, you.
There's that. There's that as well. I know people. That's not going to help me be well liked around here in upstate New York, I don't think. But all I can say is that I was there when I was at that point. I was about 5 or 6 years old, and Bill Parcells was our head coach. Drew Bledsoe, first overall pick, was the quarterback when he was throwing passes to Terry Glenn and Ben Coates, and Sam Gash was our fullback. No James Devlin yet.
Wow.
About talking about 20 years ago, 25 years ago at this point, we were in the Super Bowl against the Packers, and there was the Desmond Howard kick return. This is stuff that I remember because I was a fan when I was 5 or 6 years old.
When they sucked.
Yeah.
To put it
and
nicely.
Then, really Parcells and Bledsoe, they were the first ones to turn things around. And on that first Super Bowl team, second Super Bowl team in franchise history, they played the Bears a long, long time ago and got smoked. And on that second Super Bowl team, kind of the first one of the modern era, of course, Bill Belichick was the assistant head coach in that team, and that's kind of how he got to know Robert Kraft in the first place, and why, Robert Kraft felt like he should trade for him the next time around. But what I always like to tell people too, people that are big Patriots haters out there, is that yes, they did used to stink. Yes, there are Boston fans that were fans of them still, and even me, like I'm only 27, but I do consider myself, I was a fan of them before they were good. Some lean years as well when Pete Carroll was our head coach. They were not very good during that time. But my grandfather on my dad's side, Mike, he was a huge, huge Patriots fan. He's from New Hampshire. My dad's side's from New Hampshire. And when, he's a sports fan in general, but Patriots above all else, even when they were bad. And unfortunately, my grandfather passed away due to cancer the summer before that season began of their first title. And
That's unfortunate.
He was a Boston sports fan in general, though, too. So we always think about that, with him. I was very young at that point when he passed away, but just the fact that, hopefully he's looking down on it. But like 12 titles in Boston. And, for a lot of people, you could be 13 years old and you have 12 titles. Like, that's insane. And certainly for me, I feel blessed as a huge sports fan to have, grown up, in the New England area during this kind of this heyday, these golden years of Boston sports. And I know it makes a lot of people upset, but I kind of always like to reference and think about my grandfather who, as crazy as it is, passed away right before the Patriots won their first Super Bowl. And I always wonder, like, what he would be thinking of all of this, of 6 Super Bowls, because he spent his whole life rooting for that team, and they were always terrible. And so he's always the one who I think of, when they have their success.
It's funny because my grandfather, God rest his soul, too, he died 7 years ago now. It'll be 6 years in March. And I remember, as painful as the 2004 ALCS was for me, and watching the Red Sox break the streak, the curse of the Bambino, I was happy for him because he was a diehard Red Sox fan. So, and I'm glad he was around to see that. But
cool stuff, good stuff.
Yeah, like I said, it sucked though, being a Yankee fan. But it is what it is. So we'll go back to the Saints here. Give us a little. What's Coach Christian like? His first year at the helm of Siena. Give us a little insight on the program right now and Coach.
It's a change in style from last year. I mean, every coach has their own philosophy, their own mannerisms, their own way about them. Coach Christian, he's super laid back. I think he prides himself first and foremost in just sort of being one of the guys, just being a normal human. I think a lot of coaches don't come off that way. They're a little bit standoffish at times. Everybody has an ego. Everybody has an ego. I do. You do. Everybody does.
Come on.
And I'm sure, I'm not saying Coach Christian doesn't, but he does pride himself in, I think, being more down to earth than your average basketball coach. He, plays one-on-one against the guys all the time. He just on the road trips, just sort of a different feel about the entire thing. It's kind of a more laid back feel where, you rarely see this, I think, for a college basketball program. Like, they're during the portions of practice and shoot around where there's not game planning, because during the game planning scouting report portion, you got to obviously hear the coaches' voices. But when they're just kind of getting shots up or going through, some of the standard drills, things like that, there's music blaring, usually hip hop or modern music blaring in the gym wherever we go to practice. Just different things like that, where it's kind of a more, I think Coach Christian is the coach of the modern day generation. What's the generation ahead of millennials? The younger one, is it Generation Z, or is that I forget, but the one that's younger than the millennials. Coach Christian is the perfect guy in this like kind of social media day and age.
So you're saying the generation after us, right?
Yeah, whatever that generation is. I think it's Gen Z. I kind of forget. He's the perfect person to everything about him is the perfect person to guide that generation, no doubt.
They obviously got off to a little bit of a slow start, not surprising with new coach. What's everything looking better now? Like they could go on a nice run here, getting closer to tournament time?
Heck yeah. I mean, they've won 5 out of their last 6. This is a team that has been extremely productive on the road this year, which to me shows, the mental toughness of the team. I believe as of now, as of the time we're recording this, I think they have 5 true road wins, whereas last year they only had 1, and they had none during conference play last year. To me, winning on the road is a sign of a mentally tough team, and they've been doing that. The other thing that kind of like blends into your previous question too is that, and kind of my last point on it about just Coach Christian, his like leadership style, he likes to go around, coach around certain themes. And one of the themes of the year has been go 10 rounds, and all the coaches have like mini pairs of boxing gloves and stuff like that. And they put on like a boxing warm-up robe and gloves on like kind of their player of the game who epitomizes the team toughness after each game. And so I think they've increased their level of togetherness and toughness as the year has gone on. And a lot of that's been due to some of the themes that Coach Christian is preaching. He carries around a compass and to remind people that you're always focused on north and not focused on any of the distractions, stuff like that. Like I think the team has bought in more and more to those types of themes that he likes to coach his team on. I think those themes are super useful because people's attention this day and age can get distracted very easily. and he keeps their eye on the ball by mixing it up and motivating them in different ways. And I think right now the team is just completely on the same page. Coach Christian talks about connectivity a lot. And at this point in the season, connectivity is at an all-time high. I mean, they went from a team that's one of the worst defensive teams in the country during non-conference play by most metrics, towards the very, very bottom of all 351 Division I teams in terms of field goal percentage defense and three-point percentage defense. And at this point in time, if you look at their numbers during MAC play, they're the best MAC defensive team during conference play by almost every single metric. So it's been impressive to see how this team has been developed over the course of the season.
We'll switch topics here over to the Albany Empire Arena football. Second year in the league. Your second year on the call, right? This year coming up?
Yes.
How's the season looking so far? What do you think? You excited? We got a couple new teams. Well, only one's been announced so far. But
yeah, I mean, we're looking forward to there being 6 instead of 4. I think this year's schedule is going to be a lot easier to digest. Last year you had 14-game schedule with 3 opponents. So you do the math and you're playing each team at least 3 times during the regular season, a couple of them 4. That's a lot to handle. And I did that math wrong. You're playing each team at least 4 times. And
I guess that is 4, isn't it?
Yeah, because 14, yeah. Now, so that was last year. This year, it's now going to be, I think, a 12-game schedule and 5 opponents. You're only playing most opponents twice, and I think that just kind of mixes things up for the fans more. It's probably easier on the players. Like, you just get sick of a team in football, especially to play a team 4 times in a season. In the case of the Valor, we played them 6 times because we had a 2-game playoff series. That's just crazy to have to do that in football, to play a team that many times. You just get sick of each other. So the product on the field was still great last year because the talent was so heavily concentrated with the 4 teams. It was all all-star teams is how the players considered it, and I think that was very much true. But this year, it's a little bit of a mix of both worlds. Like, you still have the talent heavily concentrated, but assuming the 6th team gets announced here and you do have the 6 teams, it'll be spread out a little bit to the point where, okay, like, it's not just the same 3 opponents. You have 6 teams in the league. It freshens things up a little bit. And so we're looking forward to the season, definitely.
Now, Coach Keefe coming back this year, I'm assuming?
Absolutely. Yeah, he's here. He's good to go.
Well, hopefully, hopefully this year ends a little better than last. I mean, they can't complain. They made the championship, right? But, I mean, hopefully they can win it this year.
Right. I mean, they were in the dance last year, fell 1 round short of the Arena Bowl, getting upset by the Valor in the semis. That was kind of a shock, but they did win the regular season title last year. So that was a big accomplishment. I think they were definitely, the best team from start to finish of the season, but kind of a fluky playoff format last year where every team made the playoffs and the team with the worst regular season record ends up winning the title. And it's a team you had to, they beat the Valor the first 5 times they played them, and then they were unable to beat them a 6th time. The old saying, it's hard to beat a team 6 times. And so, look, yeah, usually, obviously, that saying is applied to like 3 times. Those were tough circumstances, and I think there's a lot of confidence in Coach Keefe because he last year turned this team from literally nothing, they didn't exist, into immediately the best team in the league throughout the balance of the season that just unfortunately couldn't close the deal in the playoffs. That was the only thing.
Yeah, hopefully, second year, hopefully, more people. I mean, I don't know how attendance was at the TU. Was it good last year?
Very good. Led the league in attendance. There's about 10,000 fans per game. Sold out the home opener in the return of Arena Football League to Albany. Got 14,000 or so in the building for Eddie Brown, touchdown Eddie Brown and Antonio Brown. Something tells me Antonio Brown's not going to make a return to the Times Union Center this time around. I feel like he's got other stuff to deal with right now. If you're paying attention to the news at all,
yeah, it's not looking too good.
But yeah, it's really, I think that was the most successful part of the season from an entire. If you're not even looking at the team, obviously. The Empire itself was happy to have a lot of fan support. But, I mean, to me, if you look league-wide, in the Arena Football League. The number one positive from last season was fan support in Albany. I don't think it was close. I mean, I think Albany's fan support absolutely made the league last season. This market is huge right now for the hopes of the league going forward because the fan support was vital and it was there, in a big way.
They kick off, mid-April, end of April, right? Is that when the season begins?
Nothing's been announced officially, I don't think, but I do believe it's going to be end of April.
All right, AJ, appreciate it, man. Once again, AJ Kanell, the voice of the Albany Empire and Siena Saints. AJ, plug your Twitter, and you also started a new podcast, right?
Yeah, we're doing a podcast right here in this building, the State of the Empire podcast, myself and Mike Falvo, the public address announcer of the team, kind of the voices of the Empire. We're keeping you updated on everything going on with the league. We've got new teams being announced here, and just it's very soon we'll be announcing a lot of the Empire team signings, stuff like that. There's a lot of news breaking with the league right now, so we're kind of your insiders, keeping you up to date on that stuff every single week. It comes out around midweek, so State of the Empire podcast, stay tuned for that. More episodes coming out. And then, follow me on Twitter at AJ Kanell. If you're a Siena fan, an Albany Empire fan, or just a fan of sports in general, you can feel free to engage in some conversation with me on there, for sure.
All right, AJ, appreciate it, man. And, I probably won't be hearing you too much this year on on this side of the Empire world, but we'll see. AJ, man, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Wait, why aren't you hearing me? I'm concerned.
Well, I'm hopefully moving up in the world of horse racing, so
gotcha.
I might not be here on weekends.
Yeah, so I know last year you were really helpful, back in the studio running the board for a lot of our games. And I hope that what you said, I hope for your sake that wherever you want to go, you go. But I'll also miss you if you're not around. So it's been a pleasure, Mike. Thanks.
I might sneak in for a game or two if I can. I gotta keep up with those crazy highlights I gotta pull every 5 seconds.
Right. Yeah, that's not a fun sport to be board opping for if you have to be the guy that cuts the highlights back in the studio. I agree with that. So
it's fun,
sorry.
but usually I'm on my phone keeping myself busy, distracted, whatever. You can't. You don't have time to pick up your phone during Empire.
That's a 50.
Score.
It's a 50-yard field that only 8 players on the field. There's just probably a lot more scoring that can happen. So it's by design. But yeah, it's that type of league, no doubt.
All right, AJ. Once again, thank you, man. And this has been a special edition of the Sit and Sports Side podcast. And we'll see you next time.